The Leafs won! Welcome to From Center Ice. My name is Courtney, and if y'all were watching playoff hockey tonight, especially the Toronto Maple Leafs against the Tampa Bay Lightning, then you witnessed history. Because for the first time in 19 years, the Toronto Maple Leafs have won a playoff series. And not only did they win a playoff series, they beat the team that they failed to win against last season in 7 games. That one also went to overtime in Game 6, just like tonight, and the Tampa Bay Lightning won that game. But tonight, the Toronto Maple Leafs, for the first time since 2004, they won a playoff series. They won 4 games in the first round of the Stanley Cup playoffs, and they are moving on. And not only that, but in this game, in Game 6 of the first round of the 2023 Stanley Cup playoffs between the Toronto Maple Leafs and the Tampa Bay Lightning, after playing 5 games that you don't feel great about, even though you have the series lead 3-2. You maybe played 1 game that you deserve to win, that being Game 2 when you beat Tampa 7-2. But other than that, you lucked into some wins in Tampa. You lost at home in Game 5. But in Game 6, when they had another chance to eliminate this team, the 2023 Toronto Maple Leafs played the best game of the playoffs so far. No more of this getting out to a series lead and then rolling over and playing horrible hockey the rest of the way, losing in Game 7, and haha, it's so funny, let's make a bunch of memes about the Toronto Maple Leafs, let's laugh at all of the sad Toronto Maple Leafs fans. No more of that, because in Game 6 this year, the Toronto Maple Leafs were skating hard. They were forechecking. They were trying. And that is not something we have been able to say in every closeout game that they have played for the last millennium. You could see that Auston Matthews wanted it. William Nylander was making defensive plays out there. Mitch Marner, bless his soul, coming into this game, he was number 2 in playoff scoring amongst all the teams that are still playing. Morgan Rielly, the longest tenured Toronto Maple Leaf on this roster. In this series, you cannot tell me that this man did not elevate his game to a level we have never seen from him. He wanted it. And Ilya Samsonov, my dude! Throughout this game, and I will get to talking about game number 6 eventually. I don't even know what I'm talking about right now. I'm just so excited. But in this game, we knew that the Tampa Bay Lightning were not going to go down easy. They are a great team down there who has a winning culture. They know how to win. They won back-to-back cups. They went to the Stanley Cup final last year, losing to Colorado. This team knows how to win. And every time it seemed that the Leafs would get a lead, here comes Tampa just working their magic and working their way back into the game. They were never out of it, except in Game 2, and that's maybe the only one aside from this game tonight that the Leafs actually looked like they were the better team. And you can't even say tonight that the Leafs looked like they were the better team, but they were right in there. This was a competitive game. It was the best game of the series. It was the best game for them to win, to close out this series. But as I was saying, Ilya Samsonov, the Lightning were throwing everything at the net that they could, and he was coming up with save after save after save after save. After looking shaky in game number 5, giving up that horrible off-angle goal to Mikey Eyssimont, he came out in game number 6 with something to prove. And he proved that in maybe the most important game of this series, he could stand tall in that he could give his team a chance. He could come up with some spectacular stops and he could win the game. Now, I know if the Leafs had lost tonight, they would still go on to Game 7. They'd still be alive. They would have a chance to win. But in my opinion, tonight, Game 6 was the most important game that they had to win. Of course, if they go to Game 7 and they end up winning that, then they slay the Game 7 dragon, they finally win a Game 7 and move on to the next round. But you don't even want to get to that point because hockey is a game of inches, a game of bounces. Any weird puck bounce can end up in the back of your net. So taking this one in Game 6, ending the series, eliminating the Tampa Bay Lightning, forcing your way into the second round of the playoffs was crucial, and they did it. So how about we talk about this game? And first of all, there were some lineup changes in this one. Michael Bunting slotted back into the lineup. He was available to come back in the last game, but Sheldon Keefe sat him. But as we all know, the Leafs lost in Game 5, so Sheldon had to make a little bit of an adjustment. So Michael Bunting comes back into the lineup. Two players on the fourth line come out of the lineup, that being Zach Aston-Reese and Sam Lafferty. And one defender comes out of the lineup in Justin Holl. So with Michael Bunting coming in, you also have to replace two other slots. Well, they bring in Timothy Liljegren and Erik Gustafsson. Yes, former Blackhawk Erik Gustafsson. And when I read that that was the lineup decision that Sheldon was going with tonight, I gotta admit I was a bit terrified. But it was also a trauma response from remembering all of the horrible plays that he made for the Rockford Ice Hogs and the Chicago Blackhawks. But we will circle back around to the Rockford Ice Hogs eventually. And to give credit where credit is due, Gus actually played fairly well in this game. He made some defensive plays. He made some key plays in the offensive zone to keep the puck in and keep things going. So it wasn't as much of a disaster as my anxiety brain was making it up to be, but you will know that anxiety brain just has a way of doing that, and especially with the Leafs, because they always found, past tense, found a way to ruin things. But that is in the past now, my friends. But anyway, to recap, without my added dialogue, Zach Aston-Reese, Sam Lafferty, Justin Holl came out of the lineup. Michael Bunting, Timothy Liljegren, and Erik Gustafsson came into the lineup. And heading into this game, seeing, a few players being moved around, I had to wonder how making such a shakeup to your lineup would adjust the flow of the game. Because the Leafs had a lead in this series, 3-2. They were playing, fine. Can't even say they were playing fairly well. They played enough to win 3 games out of the 5. But sometimes when you do a whole lineup shakeup, then it messes with chemistry and things just go all wonky. So I was a little worried about that. But once the game started and I saw that it was flowing pretty well, then I got comfortable with the lineup choices. Now, the Leafs did have to weather a storm. You had to assume that Tampa Bay, fighting for their lives, it was do or die for them. They came out and they controlled a lot of the play in the first period. But here was the difference between this game, game number 6, and the previous 5. We have seen Tampa take it to the Leafs time and time again in the first period. We've seen the Leafs not start games on time. But in this one, even though Tampa had a lot of the zone play in the first, I'll say 5-10 minutes of the period, the Maple Leafs were engaged. And you could just see the difference. They were more active in the defensive zone, attacking the puck carrier, moving players out of the way so Samsonov could see pucks coming at him. They weren't just standing around in a complacent formation, just moving from side to side, letting pucks just fly at the net. They were blocking shots, they were moving players, they were attacking, and they were able to poke the puck off of sticks, getting it out into the neutral zone, getting some offensive zone shifts. And they even had a few shifts in the offensive zone where they had sustained pressure going. That's definitely something different from what we have seen from them prior to this game. Because one of my biggest gripes about how the Leafs were playing is they were getting almost zero sustained pressure in the offensive zone. It was one and done. It was dump and chase, except not getting the puck you were chasing. But in this one, they were moving their legs a little harder. They were looking a bit more determined. They were getting their sticks in the right spots, breaking up passes, breaking up shots. And going back to the forecheck, they were breaking up a lot of defensive zone attempted clears for the Lightning and keeping the puck in the offensive zone, which was crucial for some of these plays. Now, neither team ended up scoring in the first period, so these two teams went into the first intermission for the first time this series with a score of 0-0. On to the second period. And after 2 Toronto power plays in the first period, Luke Schenn got called for a pretty weak high sticking call to begin the third. And I'm certainly not going to complain about the officials in this video. If anybody has a right to complain about the refs and the officials, it's probably Tampa fans, because there were definitely some missed calls on Toronto. But there were also missed calls on Tampa. But you usually tend to see the missed calls on the other team more than on your own team. That's just how this goes. You think your players are perfect angels. They would never commit a penalty. Anyhow, Luke Schenn goes to the box, but the Maple Leafs put in a very good penalty kill. They barely let Tampa get set up. And then shortly after killing the penalty, Michael Bunting hits the crossbar with the game still 0-0. That would have put the Leafs on the board first, but that game of inches, that is hockey. But 13 minutes and 47 seconds into the second period, TJ Brodie keeps the puck in the offensive zone on an attempted clear by the Tampa Bay Lightning. He's communicating with Auston Matthews. Auston's telling him where he's gonna go, where to put the puck. Brodie gets the puck over to Auston, and Auston freaking Matthews, with fire in his eyes all game, takes that shot and rips it over Andrei Vasilevsky's shoulder. 1-2 Toronto! They have the lead. Now they just need to keep it. And they do for the rest of the second period. These two teams go into the second intermission with the Toronto Maple Leafs up 1-0. Now, Tampa Bay has the 20-16 shot advantage, which goes back to what I was saying about Ilya Samsonov and how he came into this game wanting to prove a point, and he did. On to the third period. And 4 minutes and 11 seconds into the third period, the Leafs cannot clear the puck out of their defensive zone. It gets back to the point to Darren Radish, who takes the shot. Samsonov makes the initial stop, but the rebound comes out, and Steven Stamkos is right there, and he is able to put the puck in the net. The game is tied 1-1 in the third period. Now, if you are in the States, as I am here in Blackhawks land in Illinois, this game was on TBS, and during the intermission, Anson Carter on the TBS panel asked if the guys were superstitious. And he asked that because he said he was going to say the S word. And then he goes on to say, can Ilya Samsonov get the shutout to close out this game? And that's so funny. Paul Bissonnette's on the panel. He's a Leafs fan. Ace was mostly joking with him, and we all know that it's so funny. But here's the thing. You are on national television, and there is an unwritten rule in hockey that if a goaltender has a shutout going, you do not say the word. I don't care if you are superstitious or not. Some people might be, and you have to think of your viewers. Because I happen to be very superstitious, and I was a viewer. And so when I heard him say that, I just kind of wanted to dig my fingernails into my forehead and peel my skin all the way off. Because I knew going into the third period that this game was not going to end without Tampa scoring a goal because they said the word. And you might think that is silly, and maybe it is. But as the old beer commercial said, it's only weird if it doesn't work. And it works. And so here we are in the third period. Steven Stamkos, off of a lucky rebound, puts the puck into the net. The game is tied. No more shutout for Ilya Samsonov, who had been amazing in this game. And now we just have to hope that Tampa doesn't score any more goals, or that Toronto can score so that Tampa would just tie it up, or that maybe Toronto scores a bunch and then Tampa would just try to catch up, but they can't. And I don't know about you, but I was losing my mind a little bit because we've been here before. There have been plenty of times where we should have been confident that the Leafs would be able to close out a series and move on to the second round of the playoffs. But had they done that prior to tonight? You know the answer. I don't have to tell you. So here we are, all of Leafs Nation barely breathing for the next hour because you have the rest of the third period, you have all the stoppages, and then you have another intermission because, oh yeah, these two teams go to overtime 1-1. So not only are the Leafs trying to close out a first-round series for the first time in 19 years, not only are they trying to avoid a Game 7, which has been very bad to them in recent history, and not only are they trying to do that against the Tampa Bay Lightning, the team who beat them last year, the team who has recently won back-to-back cups, the team who went to the Stanley Cup final last season, now the game is going to overtime where the first goal wins. And we all know hockey is a game of bounces, a game of inches, anything can happen. So here we go. On to overtime. And 4 minutes and 36 seconds into the first overtime period, John Tavares is on the ice. The captain of your Toronto Maple Leafs, Matthew Knies, our beautiful boy, our treasure, is on the ice. Morgan Rielly, this beautiful, beautiful man who has showed up in this series, is on the ice. Tavares and Knies are battling along the boards, trying to keep possession for the Leafs, trying to keep it in the offensive zone, and they do. And John Tavares, the captain, gets the puck. He skates around the net, looking for his options, but there's not many great ones, so he just decides to throw this thing to the net. And if you are like me, you saw this puck moving in slow motion. It comes off of Tavares' stick. It's moving toward the net. There's players in front of Andrei Vasilevskiy. Vasi's looking for the puck, trying to decide where he needs to be to make the stop, and it is just going inch by inch by inch across the ice. And then all of a sudden things speed up really quick. It goes off with something in front of it to the net. Oh my god, the Leafs win! The puck is in the net! The Leafs win for the first time in 19 years. They are moving on to the second round of the Stanley Cup playoffs. They did it. The captain, John Tavares, who I've been critical of all series. He showed up when it mattered. He had a great final shift in this series with the kid, Matthew Knies, with Morgan Rielly, the ever-steady defenseman on this back end for the Leafs for so many years. And he throws that thing toward the net, and it goes in. But it doesn't just go in off of Tavares' initial shot. Because if you look at it a certain way, the Leafs can't win a first-round series by themselves. They need a little bit of help. So as that puck was traveling toward the net, there's a defenseman in front of Andrei Vasilevskiy. And this defenseman has had a really, really good series for the Tampa Bay Lightning. A better series than I ever would have expected from him. And he hasn't really seen that many NHL games. So why am I so familiar with Darren Radish, this defenseman for the Tampa Bay Lightning? Well, my friends. It is the Rockford Ice Hogs magic! Darren Raddysh was a former Rockford Ice Hog, then going to the Syracuse Crunch, playing for the minor league team for the Tampa Bay Lightning. He gets called up. He plays a huge role in this series. He does a great job. But the Ice Hogs magic, it strikes. That puck that John Tavares sends toward the net, it goes off of Darren Raddysh's skate. Darren Raddysh, the defenseman for the Tampa Bay Lightning, it goes off of his skate and past Andrei Vasilevsky. So the game-winning goal, the series-winning goal, sending Toronto to the second round, could be considered an own goal by the Tampa Bay Lightning. This series was ridiculous. It was so ridiculous. It had so many ridiculous moments. 2 blowout games in the first 2. 7-3 by the Lightning, 7-2 by the Leafs. 2 overtime games in the first 2 games in Tampa. It comes back to Toronto and the Lightning win, forcing a Game 6 back in Tampa. Then there's a tornado watch or a warning in Tampa Bay, so they can't have their outdoor watch party during Game 6. The Leafs play their best game of the series, and regulation ends with it tied 1-1. It goes to overtime. John Tavares, the captain, Morgan Rielly in front of the net, Matthew Knies battling for the puck, all of these guys out on the ice, and it ends up going in off of a Tampa Bay skate. But it doesn't matter, because that's a goal for the Toronto Maple Leafs. They won the series. They're finally moving on. Matthew Knies, he was on the ice for every single overtime winner for the Leafs in this series. You can't forget about all of the heartache that the Leafs have put you through, have put me through, have put us through, because it makes this moment better. But when you think back on all of it, after a few years have passed, this is the one that is going to stick out because it was just so wonderful. They did it. They are moving on. And I felt it. I knew it was going to happen. There was bad weather in Tampa. Guess what? The last time there was a brutal storm during a Game 6 for the Tampa Bay Lightning, it was Game 6 in Chicago in 2015. And I know most people watching this video, listening to it, won't care about that, but the Blackhawks shut out the Lightning 2-0 to win the Stanley Cup. So when I saw there was bad weather, I got a good feeling. Then it started raining here at my house, and I got an even better feeling. Then former Ice Hog Brandon Hagel doesn't score in this game, even though he has so many good chances. And that puck goes off of another former Ice Hog skate into the net, and the Leafs win. I don't know about y'all, but I'm gonna sleep good tonight. But that's gonna do it for me in this video. I'm so excited. I don't even remember what I have said. Now the Leafs await the winner of the series between the Boston Bruins and the Florida Panthers. That is going to Game 7, which will be played tomorrow. So I will be watching that, but in the meantime, if you would like to hear more from me or from Center Ice, you could head on over to FromCenterIce.com. There's links to all the places you can find us over there, or if you look in the description of this video, you can find all of the links to our social media pages. You can follow along on there. But all of that being said, thank you all so very much for tuning in. I appreciate each and every one of you, even the Lightning fans. Probably even more after this series. But while you're here, subscribe to this channel if you're not subscribed yet. Give this video a like. That would make me so very happy. And I'm already happy, so why not make me happier? Get some rest, drink some water. We got round 2 coming up sometime, eventually. And I will catch y'all in the next video. Bye, guys.